is Nathan Beverly with Call for Salt, and today is a very good day. I think most of you are aware of what is going on in the news. It's all over the place. I work in lawn care, and I had a rain day today, and they called the rain day, and I was like, I guess I get to sleep in. It's kind of nice every once in a while. But I rolled over from bed, and I just looked at my phone at Fox News, refreshed it to see what was going on, and I could not believe what I was seeing. The news about this draft that had been leaked from the Supreme Court, appearing to be the final draft, appearing to be a final decision with the Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade, appearing to overturn Roe v. Wade. As I looked into it more news came out. Excuse me. More news came out, and it was the news that it was confirmed by Chief Justice Roberts that Roe v. Wade, that this decision was their final one of, was a decision on Roe v. Wade, and that it is true that it's real, but it is, he cautioned everyone to understand that this is not necessarily their final decision. It is not the official release, but the whole way the draft was worded was very strong, very much just repudiating Roe completely, and it was written by Justice Alito. It was an excellent, just what I've heard of it on different news sites, the way it was worded was just excellent, and we have cause to celebrate today. It is, we ought to be cautiously optimistic. We don't know for sure, but the fact that this was leaked was most likely one of the liberal justices, one of the clerks, that in their warped view, of their extreme view, they probably wanted to leak it to intimidate the conservative justices to change their opinion, because it still can be changed. So we need to be praying about this. But just everything that we see so far seems to, is just a strong indication that this decision is going to come down in June, most likely June. It could come down any day, really, but usually it's the end of June. This decision is going to come down, overturning 50 years of abortion precedent in this country, Roe v. Wade, and what we've been fighting for so long. So I want to give you a big thank you to, first of all, God himself for his, God's faithfulness, to hear our cries, to hear our prayers, to honor those that have been fighting in the trenches. I'm not necessarily one that's fought in the trenches a lot. I've been to some protests and things like that, but there's been some that just give their lives for this, and I want to thank those. I want to thank I want to thank President Trump. We've got to give credit where credit is due. If we hadn't have had a president that promised that he would put in conservative justices, he even promised that he would put in those that would overturn Roe v. Wade. Maybe he knew something that we didn't know. I've had some people even say that, maybe I don't think Kavanaugh's going to overturn Roe v. Wade. Well, that's very, that's up for debate until we see it actually play out. But he's conservative at the very least, and so we have a president that kept his word, not only made that decision, but he kept his word. When I knew nothing about President Trump, when I thought that he was more liberal than conservative, and I thought that he was just selling us down the river in midway through 2016, and I was actually thinking about not voting, the thing that I even told my wife this 2 weeks before I said, 2 weeks before it actually happened, I told my wife this. I said, the only thing that could get me to pull the lever for Trump is, and just not vote at all. I wasn't going to vote for the first time in my history, because he just seemed so, he supported Hillary in the past. It just, his record, and I was thinking a New York liberal. And I said, the only thing that could probably change my mind is if he came up with, to promise us conservative Supreme Court justices. He had a list, or he had very specifics, and that's exactly what he did 2 weeks later. And he followed through on his promises. All of the talk from Never-Trumpers about Trump this and Trump that, well, this issue is priority one for our country, for conservatives. And here we are today, on the cusp of Roe v. Wade being overturned. Thank you, President Trump. Thank you for every Republican that voted to nominate these conservatives. to the bench. And thank you, every one of you that voted for President Trump, that voted for Republican senators and senators. Thank you. Thank you for being faithful to your position. Thank you for being we the people and sending your message and taking your job seriously, your responsibility before God to be the government. We are the government. We are the final authority for the government in this country. That's just the way it was set up. And thank you that we are seeing good government actually play out for once. You know, there's a lot of times politics just goes the wrong way. But this appears to be going for once in the right direction. Praise the Lord. I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm excited. I know you probably are too if you're watching this. Thank you, Lord. I can't say that enough. Although we don't know the final decision, so we have to pray. We have to ask God to just keep them strong if they're going to vote for the right way, and help them to vote the right way. The final decision may come out correctly. And so there's a couple things I want to go over in this video. I want to play a couple clips from the same interview Mark Levin had on Fox, I believe it's Fox and Friends, and I just think it absolutely goes to the core of why abortion is so evil, and also why this leaking is so egregious. What the left is completely is up to, what they're trying to do, just falls in line with the pattern that we've seen from them over the last few years since President Trump was elected. We have a new Democrat Party. We have a new breed of Democrats. We'll talk about that. And I want to talk at the end briefly about two things that I've observed that I think we can learn from this whole thing that'll make us more effective going forward. So, in these causes and being salt and light as Christians. So here it is. I want to get to these clips.
Life, Liberty, and Levin. Mark, thanks for getting up early today. So you heard Laura. You've been thinking about this all night. Do you? Obviously, everybody feels this is some sort of activist inside the court trying to get the justices to change their mind. Will this change any minds, or will this just harden their belief that Roe v. Wade should be overturned? They're going to dig in on this.
I don't think it's going to change any justice's mind, but I want to talk about this in a broader context.
Sorry about that. Go back to it.
When you attack America's institutions day in and day out with critical race theory, when you threaten the Supreme Court of the United States, as Chuck Schumer threatened two justices several years ago for which he never paid a penalty, when you keep talking about packing the Supreme Court in order to get the results that you want, when you keep denigrating these institutions, these American institutions, from the founding to our monuments, to our history, to these different branches of government, when you keep trespassing on separation of powers, this is what you get. When you use an unnamed so-called whistleblower to try and take out a president of the United States, and you impeach him twice really with no basis whatsoever, and when you trigger the investigation of a president with a special counsel in violation of Department of Justice regulations with no predicate whatsoever, when you conduct yourself in an utterly lawless way, attacking the institutions of this country, attacking the founding documents of this country, attacking the history of this country, this is what you get. Lawlessness. It's just a matter of time. All these institutions are going to collapse. This is a grave assault on the Supreme Court. When I was in law school, I was actually an intern to Chief Justice Warren Burger. I saw how it operated. And I can tell you, this institution takes its confidentiality seriously. Why? That's the coin of the realm. They've got to be able to talk about ideas freely. They got to be able to discuss this without political pressure. Why do people think these are lifetime appointments? And of course, the Democrat Party is destroying this country. Look at the confirmation process. It started with Bork. The Democrats targeted him under Kennedy and Biden. And it moves on to others, including Clarence Thomas, including Kavanaugh. Republicans don't treat Democrat nominees this way. They may object to them. When you say the Supreme Court doesn't look like America, you're undermining the credibility of the court. And so this is a war on our system of government. You see immediately Bernie Sanders, who really hates this country as far as I'm concerned. Does he ever say anything good about the country? When you see Bernie Sanders issue a tweet or a statement saying Now basically on to the Senate. We have to get rid of the filibuster rule. So they want to take out two institutions with one stone. When you see that press release that Schumer and Pelosi put out, they're real out there trying to politicize their base, trying to rev up the voters for November. These are disgusting people who are not statesmen, who put their party before their country. We've become the United States of the Democrat Party, not the United States of America. So this person who's leaked, it's very interesting. I was talking to my wife about this last night. This person who leaked will be considered an iconic civil rights type person. Whether this person's a lawyer and loses their bar degree or not, their law degree, they will make a fortune writing books. They will make a fortune going on different circuits, talk circuits. Maybe they'll even be focused on by CBS Sunday Morning with the birds in the background and the flowers in the front ground. What's happening to this country is the derogation of our belief systems and our institutions from within. And if you're pushing things like critical race theory, you have no respect for this country. As a matter of fact, these kinds of leaks are necessary. If you believe that this country was founded in malice, that this country is evil, then you'll do anything to take it down. And we've now reached a point where the ends do justify the means. So whomever this leaker is, by the way, here it is. Here's the document. It's everywhere. And what I notice is, where's the minority opinion?
You're right.
I mean, I don't see it. I guess that wasn't circulated. Other opinions, other notes, they're not circulated. Just what apparently Alito is alleged to have written. By the way, it's a damn good draft, as a matter of fact. And on the substance, we have headlines saying the Supreme Court is going to eliminate abortion rights. Ladies and gentlemen, even if this opinion winds up being essentially the final opinion and you want an abortion, you'll get an abortion. It'll be paid for by the federal government. Maybe you'll have to go to one of 30 or 40 or 45 states. I'm sure people will consider that an inconvenience. But the idea that people cannot get an abortion is not eliminated. Abortion is still going to be funded by the federal government. We have one of the most extreme processes, extreme in terms of so-called liberal processes for getting abortion on the face of the earth, even with this decision. The Roe v. Wade decision was a bogus decision. It was a political op-ed piece for the New York Times or the Washington Post. It has no basis in the Constitution or law. This is why they fight like hell to get justices on there who will uphold it. If it was that, you don't need justices on the court. They don't fight over Plessy versus Ferguson, Brown versus Board of Education, which reversed Plessy versus Ferguson. They don't ask people about that because everybody knows that's settled law under our Constitution. The corrupt decision was Plessy, not Brown. But Roe v. Wade is a corruption of the Supreme Court. This is why we have unalienable rights, and the majority should never rule in all cases.
Mark, as far as the leaker is concerned...
Okay, I want to say this. Pull my picture up here, too, again. I think just one... I played the first part of this interview. I'm going to go to the end and play the last clip. I think it's important. He's talking a lot. He's going to talk a lot about the leaker and how whether this is illegal or not. I don't really want to go too much into that, but he pointed something out that is actually, I think, fundamental to this whole thing. Is the left is when you're teaching and you're espousing critical race theory, and you're basically saying that, like he said, that this country was was formed out of malice. If everything you look at is through the lens of slavery or racism, like that's like the whole motivation for everything that happened in this country and every way that it was founded. Of course, you're going to do what he says. You're going to do. This was a necessary thing to do, to leak this. Leaks on the Supreme Court have never been done. I think you mentioned this as well. They've never been done in history. They don't leak decisions of the Supreme Court before they're done. I mean, that is just gonna, of course, rile everybody up. That's, of course, gonna bring undue pressure on the justices to change their opinion before they officially come out with it. I mean, this is absolutely disgusting that this has happened. This is absolutely anti-constitutional that they would do this. Now, is it illegal? That's another point. This person should, at the very least, if it's not illegal, lose their job and be publicly exposed for who they are. and be humiliated, because this is basically what they're trying to do. Is it's almost definitely someone, a liberal leading clerk, and they're trying to change the outcome somehow through through pressure. Hopefully, maybe they even think that there's certain threats will be made to them or their family they'll tip the scales. They don't. It's like you said. They'll do whatever they see this as necessary, and you can see the mainstream media already starting to put out those talking points that this is necessary. This person's going to be a hero. This person's going to be like the Robin Hood, the one that goes against the law for the public good. It's absolutely, it makes my blood boil. They'll try, and he listed this long string of things that they've done to try to, go around the process that we have in place. Whether it's of this bogus attack on Brett Kavanaugh that had Christine Blasey Ford that had holes all through her accusation, just nothing backing up, nothing's corroborated or substantiated, just absolute bogus. And they just wanted to say believe all women. They just wanted to use that mantra from the Me Too movement, that postmodern view, to go around innocent before proven guilty and due process, just to just take this guy out. If there's any accusation against him whatsoever, we just take him out. And they almost succeeded. They tried to take Trump out through Russian, a whole made up thing on Russian collusion. They tried to do that. That was all illegal, handled by people in the FBI. Bad apples in the FBI, the Hillary Clinton campaign, Democrat Party. It was all made up. It's been proven. Even the Washington Post has reported on it now. It's absolutely disgusting the lengths that the Democrats, many in the Democrat Party, and the left in general will just go to. They're radicals, and that's the first point I wanted to bring out. They are radicals. I think that's one of the things that we can learn from this. They are just radicals, and they're new Democrat Party. They're new people, and they'll do whatever it takes. Now, let me just, before I take all the time here, let me just go to the next clip, next part where I wanted to pick up, because I think it's really important, this part here coming up at, let's see here, it was like 15 minutes, no, it's not 15 minutes long, I'm sorry, it's like about 7 minutes long. Okay, here we go.
Yeah. Mark, going back to what you said, the headline on all the channels is that the Supreme Court's going to overturn Roe v. Wade, it sounds like. But ultimately, it will come to, as you said accurately, every state will be able to decide whether to restrict or ban abortion. And, this all started in Mississippi, where they said you can't have an abortion after 15 weeks.
Couple things about this. It's not the final decision, as Professor Trilly and others have said, but it is an indication. Isn't it amazing? All these medical experts and scientists that we've listened to for 2 years on COVID, they say follow the science.
This is what I got in my title
here. Following the science,
from him.
Following the sonograms, the heartbeats. Well, what is that exactly in a woman's womb after 15 weeks? What is it? What is it? It's not a bologna sandwich. What is it?
It's a person.
It's a baby. And more with our scientific technology, babies can survive. And yet, the Democrats and the left still push abortion up to the last second. The governor of Colorado, the governor of California. And everybody says, well, that's a choice. Are you kidding me? It's a human being. Now, we can have that debate, which is separate from the debate over the destruction of our institutions. And maybe it's not so separate. It just shows you the poisoning of our culture.
Good point here.
Roe v. Wade doesn't even do what these governors want to do. Federal funding for abortions. We had an agreement under the Hyde Amendment for 15 years that the federal dollars wouldn't be used because we had to have respect for people who have a moral problem with it. That's been eliminated. We have doctors and nurses for religious reasons or moral reasons who don't want to conduct abortions. Those Democrats that you hear now in the Senate and the House, they're trying to force them to do what they want them to do. This is what happens. So people are at loggerheads here. Absolute loggerheads. That's why the framers were so incredibly intelligent when it comes to the 10th Amendment. And some of these decisions, most, have to be left to the states, where people have a viewpoint in one state where they may not have a viewpoint in another state. But the left is not happy with that. So when I hear a senator say, well, we're going to have a patchwork when it comes to abortion, that's the point. It doesn't mean a woman isn't going to get it. Are you kidding me? We have groups bringing illegal aliens into this country, moving them from city to city, state to state. If somebody says, I want an abortion in the 18th week, and I'm in Mississippi, they'll say, okay, let's get on the bus. We'll go over to New Jersey or wherever it is. This is not an issue about whether or not somebody can get an abortion, I'm sad to say.
Yeah,
this is an issue about the constitutional construct in this country. Who makes the decisions?
That's good.
Are we going to centralize all these decisions with a handful of judges and Schumer and Pelosi and the radicals in this country? Or are we going to allow the American people to make these decisions? This is a counter-revolution to the American Revolution. That's what's taking place here.
That is exactly
in so many ways, we live in a post-constitutional society now. I don't know. Are we a representative republic? Are we a federal republic? What exactly are we? And so now they basically light a fuse at the Supreme Court of the United States. Why not? Why not? They're blowing up everything else, and the court has a grave problem on its hands right now. Somebody did horrific damage to the Supreme Court, and I want the American people to understand. You might say, well, who cares? Somebody leaks something. Everybody always leaks something. You cannot have 9 justices sitting in a conference room openly discussing opinions, going back and forth, having their law clerks help prepare the briefs, going back and forth. It takes a period of months typically. With a complicated decision, it could be 6 months if they think somebody's going to leak it. And just remember the motives behind the person who leaked it. They succeeded. They succeeded. The Democrat Party is running with this like a dog with a bone. And they're going to raise money on this, and they hope it changes what happens in 2022. And I predict, I hope I'm wrong, that Biden is also going to be a dog with a bone in his mouth. That's what they're going to do.
Starting today.
They're going to try and change the subject. But I want to be clear, sadly. If you're somebody who wants an abortion, you'll be able to get an abortion. But the Supreme Court has been severely damaged, as have the rest of our institutions, by the radical left in this country.
And Justice Alito said we cannot allow our decisions to be affected in any way or influenced by anything such as public opinion. So that's what Alito thinks, and he says, so therefore, if the February paper stands, that'll be the June decision. Mark?
Okay, that's it right there. That's Mark Levin. Now Mark Levin is obviously a very passionate man. You can see that is righteous indignation. That is the definition of righteous indignation. He's like that on all of the issues of the radical left, what they're doing to this country, and abortion is no exception, obviously, to him. He's not a Christian. I believe he's a Orthodox Jew, I believe, but he sees the issue with abortion, and I wanted to just highlight that. Follow the science. That's where I got that from. I got it from him. Just follow. We've been hearing that from the left so much. Follow the science, even when they're not scientific. They somehow get some kind of shred of science that they think they can attach to something, and they say follow the science. But then, when it comes to abortion, with all of our technologies and everything, the left is literally losing their minds, and they don't want to follow the science. It's heartbreaking, and it's angering to see. But yeah, and you know what? There's something else I want to mention. Mark Levin gets mad, and we should too. You know, this as if I know we're so used to hearing it, but millions and millions of babies, over 60 million babies, I believe, have been killed since the anniversary of Roe v. Wade. It's absolutely, when you think about that, I mean, if you saw children being murdered on the streets, God forbid that would ever happen, but if you saw that in front of you, you would be absolutely outraged. And because it's not right in our face, and because it's in someone's womb, we just don't see it every day. But we need to remember, we need to have those pictures before our eyes, if you will. Maybe it's worth Googling every once in a while just to see what abortion is. They're tearing apart these babies in the womb. And these are real babies. These are real human beings. Like he said, follow the science. You know, I'll share my background real quick. The reason why abortion became such a passionate issue to me is I grew up in a very pro-life home. Both my parents. My mom was very pro-life. She would, back in 1990, I remember, I was 10 years old. She went to the national anniversary of Roe v. Wade Right to Life March in Washington, D.C. She was bussed down there with a bunch of people from where I grew up in Maine, pro-lifers, with people from all over the country. And they were probably 1 million people, hundreds of thousands of people that marched. She came back, and I didn't really know a whole lot about it. They explained it to me. But when I saw the flyers that she left on the table of abortion, and these are colored pictures of aborted babies aborted in different ways, at different stages of pregnancy, even very young ages, you could see everything. You could see everything. It was just absolutely horrific. And I was 10 years old. It didn't give me nightmares. It didn't scar me for life. Well, it scarred me for life in a very good way. And I think we all need to be confronted with some sort of the reality of what abortion is, because it made me angry. At 10 years old, it made me angry, and it made me deeply saddened at the same time, and that never left me. And that has always been #1 issue that I care about. That's why I'm a Republican. First and foremost, that's why I'm a Republican. That's the #1 issues I vote on. And we need to remember these are the kinds of things that move. This needle has been moving. This issue, we talk about the Overton window, the left, it seems to be moving everything in the leftward drift. This is one issue that, because pro-lifers, conservatives have fought so hard, we passed so many state laws and we've made so much progress, I think we've finally come to the point where it's very likely that we're actually going to see Roe v. Wade overturned. And that's why we vote. That's why we call it a political issue. People call it abortion a political issue. It's beyond politics, but it has to be through politics that we make it illegal. I mean, that's the only way. So I had an article on how we've made the word politics a dirty word, and how we need to take that label off of it. How we need to take that concept, that that whole bad idea of politics, because politics is instituted by God, good government to protect the people. Romans 13. It's going to be corrupt. It's always been corrupt, right? Human beings are running it. But it is a good thing created by God to create just laws, and we, the people in America, have more responsibility, more opportunity, and more to say than any other country in the face of this world. And if we don't vote for Republicans, if we don't vote for conservatives, those that are pro-life, if we don't vote to keep the crazies out, then this is just going to, more babies are going to be murdered. But if we vote for what is right, less babies are going to be murdered, and hopefully we can someday, if we overturn Roe v. Wade, that's huge. But if someday we can ban it all across the country, that would be, the conversation is now is going to be up in the center of everything now, and we can bring these things to the forefront just like the left will. As media is changing, as we have more outlets, we'll have more opportunity to spread the message of the science, but the reality of a human life in the womb. And we are making progress, and thank you, Lord, for what is going on. And I want to say the two things that I've learned from just looking at this whole thing, this whole situation, I think we all need to learn, is we have a new breed of Democrats. They're radicals. These are people that would love to, like Levin basically implied and said, was that, these people would like to make it legal for all 9 months of pregnancy. They would like to force doctors and nurses to do it, whether they object to it or not. So if you spend years and years trying to become a doctor, and all of a sudden, and all that money and time put into being a doctor, a gynecologist, or whatever the kind of doctor is to deliver babies, and yet you don't want to have to you don't want to have to have you don't want to have to perform abortions because it's against your beliefs. And a law just changes in your state because you happen to live in a blue state or somewhere that forces you to commit those. You no longer can practice medicine. You no longer can be a doctor. All of that is wasted. That is an injustice. It is an absolute injustice. So if people can't live according to their conscience, and according to their beliefs in their public workplace, then this country is no longer a free country. So those kind of things he points out, these are radical. They'll go to whatever means possible. Like he said, the ends do justify the means with them. And we've seen it time and time again. This is a new Democrat. This is Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi right along with them. You know, the statements they're making, Biden's come out and made a statement about how horrible this is. They want to code it when they're trying to codify this in law, the Congress making law against it and doing away with the filibuster and all of these things so they could do whatever they possibly have to do to override what the Supreme Court's trying to do. I don't think they're going to be successful, but they're going to do whatever they can because they don't care. The abortion issue, a right to have an abortion, is the sacred cow of the Democrat Party. Don't ever let anyone say anything different. That is what motivates a lot of their vitriol, a lot of their hate towards Trump, towards anyone conservative, but they knew that Trump would be able to do things and not be tied to the swamp, not be tied to the establishment, and therefore he could get away with a lot more, and he was more dangerous to them. So, and they knew that he began to keep his promises, so as the time grew closer and he appointed those justices, they knew they had to do whatever it takes to take him down. And they tried. And they will continue to do whatever conventional or radically unconventional means possible to bring down anything that will support abortion. So this ought to be our sacred cow too. This is priority one. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The Declaration of Independence. You can't have anything without life. And who are we to say? Who are we to say that these babies don't deserve life if we have life? Hands down, that's it, right? Who are we to say that we should have freedom and pursuit of happiness and all the things that come with our life? If we're going to deny, we're going to allow babies to be murdered. They're babies, like he said. They're not just blobs of tissue. They're not just a fetus. They're babies. They're children. And it's okay to get angry. I for a minute there, I thought maybe a lot of people think I'm going over the top. Maybe you do. Levin doesn't care. And when it comes to things like this, we need to speak from our heart and let it go. Just, you know, this is evil what's happening. So the second thing I want to mention that I think we can learn from, and this is a little bit more practical, more strategic. I think a lot of us Republicans, especially after Trump, we want the Trumpsters. We want the people that are going to be fighters, that are not going to be beholden to the swamp or beholden to the establishment. Not any rhinos, but I think one of the mistakes that we've made is we've too easily put the label of rhino on a lot of Republicans, and therefore sometimes we don't vote for them, and we let the Democrat win instead. That's kind of the consequence of it. I think that's a dangerous mistake. I think this situation has proven that. The reason why I say that is because we see people like Mitch McConnell. He has been attacked in a lot of ways for being tied to the establishment, and there's a lot. He has some issues. He's not backed up Trump, and when he should have backed him up, he's let us down. He doesn't have much of a backbone. But I'll tell you this: when you and other Republicans, you think of Lindsey Graham, people like that. All these Republicans, though, most of these Republicans that we're talking about are not rhinos. They're not Republican in name only. They're leaps and bounds to the right of these crazy Democrats. They do vote for pro-life. Most of them have a very strong pro-life record. You just look at their voting records, with like Mitch McConnell, and especially look at what Mitch McConnell did. I mean, he's kind of like, they call him the turtle, right? He's kind of like this turtle that ducks his head down to protect himself. He's scared of the media, scared of whatever, and he doesn't have a lot of backbone. But when it came to judges, he confirmed more conservative judges from any president in one term than any president in U.S. history, and they were conservative every time, and he pushed them. Here's a story where his backbone turned to steel when it mattered. Mitch McConnell, during President Obama's his last year in office, when God rest his soul, Antonin Scalia passed away, the conservative justice. Obama nominated a I would say a leftist Supreme Court justice to be the next Supreme Court. It was Merrick Garland. Merrick Garland was touted by the Democrats and by the media as being sort of a centrist. Nothing could be further from the truth. Obama would never put a centrist on the Supreme Court, and Merrick Garland's true colors came out later on. We were proven right that he was a liberal, but the Democrats never do that. They never put centrists on. And so, but McConnell, under great pressure, said, no, I'm the Senate Majority Leader. I'm not going to allow him up for a vote because I want to let the American people decide. They can choose to vote us Republicans out, and then the Senate Democrats can choose to let him come up, and if that's what the American people want to do. So that was his excuse, if you will. Well, when it came to see if he was going to be consistent, we came around to the next time there was a contentious Supreme Court justice nominated by President Trump, and not only did he push through Gorsuch and Kavanaugh, then you had a tip. You fought to have him through. You went 5-4, quote unquote 5-4 conservative after Kavanaugh, but with a big if, you had one of the quote unquote conservatives, Chief Justice Roberts, is actually voting with the liberals on some of these social issues more often than the conservatives. So he was definitely not reliable. More likely, probably to not vote to overturn Roe, if given the chance. So we still didn't think we had a chance to overturn Roe at that point. And then we came to 2 months before the 2020 election. I think it might have been 1 month. It was very close to the election, and Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away. And Trump appointed Amy Coney Barrett, known for being very conservative. Mitch McConnell did not follow his previous record. There was an election coming up, and he said, "No, I'm still going to make sure that we need to do this for the American people. That's why they voted for us. They voted. Justices were a big thing to them. That's why they voted for Trump. So I'm going to make sure that we vote on this person." And they voted Amy Coney Barrett in weeks before the election. And guess, we all know who got elected. We all know who won that election. Biden. Whether it was legitimate or not, he was the one installed as president, and he was the one that would make any more Supreme Court justice appointments. And we all know that it would have been very different if Trump and McConnell hadn't done what they were supposed to do. And McConnell got all kinds of flack for that. But he stuck to his guns, and he did what was right. And I want to say thank you, Mitch McConnell. I want to say, so my point is, don't label them all rhinos if they're not actual rhinos. If they're actually conservative a lot of the time. Now, we can try to primary these people and all of that, and we can criticize them. But when it comes down to voting for them and treating them with respect, and especially in the general against the crazy Democrats, even if they don't do anything for the conservative cause positively, even if they fill a seat, when the Democrats try to bring their crazy legislation through, they're going to be most of the time, the vast majority of the time, actually, the statistics show that they will be a reliable vote to stop the crazy nonsense coming from the left. I mean, it matters. It really does. So we can learn a little bit strategically from this. Let's fight it out in the primaries, but let's support our conservatives, and whether they're establishment or not in the general election. A little bit of strategy. We can as Christians can agree to disagree on that one, but my 2 cents there. I'll just say these in my closing thoughts. If Mitch McConnell can get a little bit of steel in his backbone for a period of time, maybe a lot of steel in his backbone, and he can stick to his guns, he can speak the truth, we can too. And we can not be afraid of what the left or what the evangelical elites try to say. I'm sure a lot of them are going to try to spin this and try to put nuance on this and try to play to both sides. If they do, I'll be on top of it, and I will be sharing it, because that'll be absolutely beyond the pale with a victory an apparent victory like this before us. But that being said, it doesn't matter what anyone thinks. If we have the truth, we speak with conviction, and when we get bolder, we let this embolden us. We stay humble, we be humble, but we get bolder, and we speak louder and longer and more prominently on this issue, because we are gaining ground. We are making headway, And maybe one day the entire country will ban abortion. Maybe one day we can have a constitutional amendment guaranteeing the right to life. Maybe something like that can happen. But we are making a huge amount of progress. So let's speak the truth in love, with compassion for those that are being murdered, but also with grace to those that we disagree with, knowing that they're deceived, knowing that. But let us not lighten or soften this issue. Abortion is about the right to actual life, and it is about the value that every human being should have as a human being created in God's image. And if we ever soften that and we ever stop fighting that, then shame on us. But let's go forth boldly. Let's speak lovingly with truth. Godspeed, Christian. Fight on. God bless.